I think more than anything, when it comes right down to it, this series will go down as one of the biggest missteps in Disney Star Wars history. And that's saying a lot. Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button, and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Do or do not. There is no try.
There aren't many certainties in this crazy world that we live in, but there is one thing that you can always count on happening. And that's that in any situation, there will always be someone who will try to bend over backwards to defend something that doesn't deserve to be defended. Even if that means disregarding common sense and logic. Without fail, anytime I've ever made any kind of critical remarks against Disney Star Wars, there will be someone either in my comments or on social media who will tell me to learn to enjoy things and to stop thinking about things too much.
Fuck me, right?
Just take it for what it is and stop asking questions. And if you defy that as a person, you will be labeled everything under the sun as they try to deflect from the real problem, and that's the people who are making Star Wars in the modern era. The difference between me and these people is that my connection with Star Wars runs much deeper. Because I love Star Wars so much and because I want the best for it, I feel like I'm also in the best position to be critical of it when it's deserving.
That makes sense.
You see, I come from a time when this is what fandom did. We sat around and we overanalyzed things, we theorized, we bullshitted about what we liked and what we didn't like. But at some point, society as a whole took a turn for the worst. And people became resistant to the idea of valid criticisms or observations. And I think a big reason for that is we live in an era of instant gratification, and our entertainment is starting to reflect that.
No shit.
People have been programmed, quite simply, to not think about what they're watching, what they're seeing, what they're hearing. It's consume, consume, consume. We have Easter eggs, we have references, we have fight sequences. And apparently everyone goes home happy. But I personally want a little bit more out of my entertainment, especially when it comes to Star Wars. When you have an established, detailed, rich history like this franchise does, longtime fans like myself are going to expect a bit more than that. They're going to expect an attention to detail, which is one of the biggest things that Disney Star Wars is lacking. Why is it that every time we've seen Tatooine in this show, it has been made up of mostly human characters? When we've seen in past movies that this planet is filled with various life forms. While that may seem insignificant to some, it takes a person like me with an attention to detail out of the story, because it ceases to feel like the world that we know and love.
Oh, you're right. And when you're right, you're right. And you're always right.
And if you want to take this lack of attention to detail into the modern era, let's look at a character like Reva, who just got impaled with a lightsaber in the last episode, and now somehow she's planet hopping and looking for Luke Skywalker. There's not one mention of how she could possibly still be alive. Qui-Gon Jinn took a similar blow in episode 1 and died almost instantly.
I will find you, and I will kill you.
That's no attention to detail. That's just doing things for the sake of moving your story along. She's alive because of reasons, because of plot. Next we have Obi-Wan and the Jedi enthusiasts fleeing from the Empire. And Obi-Wan takes it upon himself to lure them away so the people can escape. Before that though, the show continues its crusade to try to establish this connection between Leia and Obi-Wan Kenobi that never really existed before this. Is it because they are trying to retroactively explain why she named her first son Ben? Possibly.
Bullshit.
But let's look at the facts for a moment, because this episode frames their relationship as the reason that Obi-Wan gets his swagger back. Here's a question: does anyone remember A New Hope, when Obi-Wan Kenobi is murdered right in front of Luke and Leia, and she has virtually no reaction to that death and basically just says it's too late and tells Luke to get on the ship? In fact, in the very next scene, she's actually consoling Luke. These characters have zero established connection. But Lucasfilm, again, is just doing things to move the plot along. Would it have not made more sense in this series to spend more time with young Luke Skywalker than it did to spend time with Leia? Now, Luke and Obi-Wan couldn't and shouldn't really have scenes together, which they fucked up in this episode also, by the way. But the dynamic of Luke or Obi-Wan, or even both of them, facing some kind of threat, possibly someone like a Darth Maul to avoid the Darth Vader paradox that this show created, if we're thinking logically here, that might have made for a better show.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
A less continuity and canon breaking show. This is the first and only episode of this series that predominantly featured Luke, and this is the final episode. And then we have the character of Reva, who is on a quest to avenge her friends that Anakin slaughtered. Her solution, after failing to kill Vader in a one-on-one confrontation, is to kill his son that Anakin has no idea exists. That's a bold strategy.
But you one crazy ass bitch!
But it all just leads to her not being able to pull the trigger because she sees her young self in young Luke Skywalker. And after that, Obi-Wan tells her now that she's resisted that urge, she can be whoever she wants to be. Part of me just thought she was going to call herself Reva Skywalker because that's apparently how we do things now. It seems as if anyone can identify as a Skywalker if they wish to. The issue with Reva this entire time is that her character is not constructed in a way that makes her relatable to the audience. Now, some may claim to relate to her, but most of that is probably phony. The truth is that she was used as yet another vehicle by Lucasfilm to subvert expectations. And yes, people who signed up for an Obi-Wan show frankly do not care about this character and don't really need to see her. She is a nothing character and left literally zero impression on me, and it's hard for me to believe how she will ever receive her own show after this.
Dodson! We've got Dodson here! Nobody cares.
And then we have the Vader dynamic, which I say again, he should have never been in this show to begin with for obvious reasons. Obviously, visually, it's always great to see Darth Vader. He's one of the greatest cinematic villains of all time, if not the greatest. But at what cost are we seeing him? That's the part that people don't seem to understand. Vader follows Obi-Wan in this episode to yet another visually unimpressive planet, which is another problem with this series as a whole, by the way. It's just artistically boring. There's no imagination in the aesthetic or planetary design whatsoever.
Whoopie fucking do. Hey, I'm impressed.
So they confront each other on Rock Planet B, I guess, and they trade nostalgia-inducing lines like, "I will do what I must." See what I'm talking about? References and Easter eggs. Nothing else matters. And Obi-Wan does fare much better this time around in this battle because Leia apparently caused an awakening in him. And we see a little bit more of the Obi-Wan that we should have seen the entire time. Too little too late, if you ask me.
I have a bad feeling about this.
So basically, he's hurling rocks and shit at Vader, and he's slashing at him with his lightsaber, and he severely damages Vader's suit, so much so that we actually see a portion of Anakin's face coming through. So he has Vader defeated in this weakened state, and they proceed to exchange more dialogue. This time with Lucasfilm hammering home the heavy-handed metaphor that Vader is the one who killed Anakin. Basically saying that Anakin killed his former self. We get it. This is in reference to A New Hope and Obi-Wan's vague description to Luke about his father. After this, Obi-Wan says that his friend is truly dead and calls him Darth as he walks away. So basically these two characters are right back where they started, and they're in the same position they were in at the end of Revenge of the Sith. It's an almost identical situation, dialogue and all, and it adds absolutely nothing to their relationship. But it also created yet another plot hole. Why not just finish Darth Vader off in this situation? You already said your friend is truly dead. You see, Disney wrote themselves into a corner with this rematch of the century bullshit.
I knew it. I'm surrounded by assholes.
Because Vader obviously has to live, and Obi-Wan should probably win in his own series, so they end the battle in the most illogical way possible. But people will still say they're invested in it because Obi-Wan showed a little bit of emotion in this scene. Am I reading too much into this, or is Lucasfilm using nostalgia to sell a show that they didn't take the time to actually think about?
Ooh, that's a bingo.
The reality is that it does not fit into what we already know. The episode concludes with Obi-Wan interacting with both of the Skywalker children, Luke being the most egregious of those two interactions because the interaction really didn't need to exist on top of that. And as far as one final member berry in this series, we do get a glimpse of Force Ghost Qui-Gon Jinn, who tells Obi-Wan that they have work to do. And yet another scene that told me absolutely nothing I didn't already know and put us right back in the same situation we were in at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
So I ask again, what was the point of all this? I'm not interested in mindless empty cameos and references, which this show was full of, by the way. It contained characters and situations that contradict what came before, it introduced new, forgettable characters that left zero impression on me, and it took a character who many people, including myself, were excited to see again, and somehow made him feel less special and made me not care about him. And that, my friends, is the very definition of one of my rating tiers. That's why I'm giving the Obi-Wan Kenobi series as a whole the Careless Sam Gerard.
I don't care! Y'all be cool. Nah.